Do I have a treat for you today? And it's really a treat for me. I am honored. I am beyond ecstatic about these knives. Okay. These are both from Stan Wilson, and they are both non-flipper flippers. Now, if you don't know what that is, stay tuned because I'm going to tell you all about it. These are knives that I actually never thought I would really be able to film, let alone be able to own one. Now, this isn't a grail piece for me. Now, some people have commented that it takes me too long to open the knives. So there you go. We're going to open one right away. This is not a grail piece for me. This is one that I own. This one belongs to Kyle, but it could be yours because at the time of filming, it is available. And I will put some pricing down below if it is still available when this airs. I am filming this on October 1st, and I am taking it to Blade Show West with me and hoping to just sell it straight out, face to face, at Blade Show West. But we'll see. Okay, these are not inexpensive. Okay, these are 9,000 plus. Okay, just to give you an idea. So if you're in that ballpark, hey, check down below. It might be available. So the Frank Fisher Battle was my grail knife. And this was the very first one I ever got. This was not the configuration necessarily that I wanted or I grailed after. I sought after. It just happened to be the first one that was available that I could work a deal and I could get. So I got it. Okay. Since I've gotten the Battle and subsequently several other battles, and if you've followed my channel, you know, I have not wanted, there's some other knives that I've wanted. Sure, I wanted a non-flipper flipper. But I wouldn't say that there was anything else that was a grail for me. This one belongs to Kyle. Damascus blade, end-cut carbon fiber, zirconium bolsters, and pocket clip. The zirconium piece really puts me over the top in wanting to work a deal with Kyle to buy this. But I can't. I'm not entertaining that. I'm not even letting that thought in my head because I don't want to do that. I do, but I don't. The action on this one is far superior to mine, but this just went to Stan Wilson for a spa treatment. So it's factory fresh, if you will. Mine is older. They're about the same vintage because you can see the hardware. The new ones coming out now all have hidden hardware. You can't see these screws. They screw in from the backside. Okay, now if you have not heard of Stan Wilson, he is probably one of the most OG knife makers that there are. Very innovative by coming up with this non-flipper flipper, which is really a backlock or a midlock. Let's see if you can see that. You can like on this particular one, you can barely see. There's a seam right there. And that's where the lock is. If I push down, you can see it poking up right there. How you actuate that lock is with the bolster. Zoom out just a little bit. By rotating the bolster ever so slightly, there's a pin that pushes up on the lock and allows the knife to close. Now, how do you fire it? With the other bolster. This right here, friends, is your flipper tab. Right here on the edge. Not the most comfortable knife to flip. This one is more comfortable than mine because mine needs some love. So what you do here is you just pull down on this backside, and then it fires out. Now, if we show you from the other side here, that's how it goes. And inside, let me get a light here. See if I can show this. You'll see, you see that pin right there that's moving? That is what is engaging the blade and flipping it out. Okay? And then, I don't know that we can see on the other side. Well, there is another pin that is inset. It doesn't poke all the way through the bolster. Basically right up here that pushes against the lock bar when you rotate this bolster ever so slightly. And then there you go. So it makes a distinctive sound if we do it in real time. It's kind of a clack clack because it's the bolster going one way and then the other way when you let go. It's so innovative, right? It's just very, very cool. And you can adjust the tension of the lock with a tiny T5 Torx right there. You can tighten that up and loosen it, and that adjusts the lock pressure. So you can kind of tune the action to be lighter or stronger. I have messed with mine just ever so slightly, but I still want to send mine in for a full kind of spa treatment. And I think the action will be superb, just like this one. So what do you have all together here? You have a 4 7/8 inch closed, 8.5 inch overall, amazing tactical pocket folder, 3.66 inch blade length from the tip of the bolster to the tip of the blade, with a 3.15 inch cutting edge. Now there's not a big finger choil or anything. However, it's not sharp for a while. And they're both very similar to that. Okay. A little bit different. These are handmade customs, so they're not going to be exact, perhaps. You might have a little bit more cutting edge on this one than on this one. But that really aids in closing, because a lot of times your thumb is going to be right there as you close it, and then away you go. The pocket clip is designed kind of fun. It's one solid piece, but it kind of necks down there and not just goes right on. Might be a little more apparent on this Timascus one because of the coloring and whatnot. But it's all one piece of Timascus on mine. So Timascus bolsters, Timascus pocket clip, marbled or shredded carbon fiber. I don't know what the blade steel is on these. They're not marked. I don't really care. What other specs we got here? 0.015 behind the edge. Weighs in at 7.4 ounces for the zirconium one and 6.8 ounces for mine. Zirconium is a really dense, thick, heavy metal, and I'm sure that's where the difference comes from. Overall thickness is 0.717, so almost 3/4 inch thick minus the pocket clip. Now, these things work amazing in the pocket. They're both disappear. They're just great in the pocket. A little bit about Stan Wilson. He's an older gentleman. He is been around longer than most, probably forgotten more about making knives than the current knife makers know. I mean, he's still current. He's still making new knives. Brand new ones are going to run you $15,000 to $20,000. I am not saying that is overpriced. I am just explaining that's where a new non-flipper flipper is going to run you. Now, he is out in Florida. He's always carried knives growing up, and hunting and whatnot. He had a good friend, and I'm not going to just read the website to you, but he had a good friend who always carried a fancier knife. And finally, Stan decided to make his own fixed blade out of scrap material around the house. It was a chainsaw bar and just some other knickknacks to come up with a fixed blade that he made for himself. And that kind of kicked him off. And then here we are with innovative designs. Lives in Florida, is good friends with Todd Fisher Sr. So you can see some resemblance. There's some distant relativeness, I guess you could say, between Todd Sr. and Stan Wilson. And you can throw Frank in the mix because they all worked together closely. And then I've done some Glen R. Hovind knives. I don't have any here with me today, but both Todd Sr. and Stan Wilson took Glen R. Hovind under their wings and really mentored him, taught him, trained him, and whatnot. So you'll see a lot of DNA in Glen R. Hovind's knives. Very, very similar to both Stan and Todd Sr. I remember when Kyle bought this at an auction and he bought a bunch of knives. I reached out, said, hey, if you go to sell it, this and that, whatever. Long before this was ever in the mix. He goes, yeah, okay, blah, blah, blah. And at that time, he told me he would never ship it. I could see it at a show or something. Here it is. He shipped it to me. And now I'm taking it to a show to sell for him. Try to sell for him. So I've become good friends with Kyle. He's had a couple of battles come through me to go to other people that I have also turned down. Yeah, I am sort of tempted to pick this one up because it's so different, but I'm gonna not. I just bought like the Silver Snoopy Omega Speedmaster, and that kind of set me back a bit. So that kind of has curbed my knife buying a little. Plus, I have a non-flipper flipper. So when I was talking to Kyle about this one, I was trying to get it in so I could film it. And then he kind of comes back, and then I worked a deal with this, and I own this one now. So I didn't really need this one to film. But Kyle's like, hey, I'm going to set it out next week with some other knives. Like, we've gotten past the whole I'm afraid to ship stuff. And so it's really a treat for me to have them both here and to be able to talk about them both. Now, if you've got questions about these, please let me know. This one is in my permanent collection. You never know, right? I mean, I've had other knives that I said I wasn't going to sell. And like, I don't do that. I don't say, oh, this is a forever keeper, because they're not. There are knives that I don't foresee selling that are down on the list, but I know too many people who claimed I'm never selling this knife. I'm going to put it in my will to my son or my daughter, this or that or the other. And lo and behold, I own them and they're in the safe now, or they're in the drawer to my left. So I try very hard not to do that. So for now, this is something I own. Hey, if somebody comes with the right price, I'm only human. I'll sell pretty much anything. It just depends. But there are knives that are lower on the food chain. And this would not be the first thing I would sell probably if I needed money. Well, there you have it. I probably rambled way too much about these, but so like I said, if you have questions in the future, I'm going to have this one for a while. And this one, I don't know, check the description. If it's still available, it's still available and it'll have a price. Thanks everybody for watching. I do appreciate your time as always. And let me know your thoughts down below. I love the interaction. I love the interaction with my international folks. It always brings a big smile to my face when I get comments from the international people, because that to me means more almost than my local people. I don't know why. And that's not to take anything away from the United States local people. It just, I don't know. To me personally, it just means something a little different for whatever reason I can't explain. So there you go. Thanks, guys.